So I work as a commercial director, and I've directed commercials for companies like Adidas, Walmart, Lucky Charms, Best Buy, and Scotch-Brite, to name just a few. And so today what I would like to do is walk you through the path that I took that took me from being an unpaid intern making $0 to a commercial director that now charges a 5-figure day rate per job. Now I know at this point in time, if you're a beginner just getting into the business, you're probably thinking a 5-figure day rate is crazy, and you're probably wondering, well, how would you get to a point where you can be charging that much? And to tell you the truth, I wondered the same things, because when I started out, I was under the impression that being a passionate filmmaker was all I needed to be, but unfortunately, simply being passionate was not enough because I was not getting any jobs and I was struggling just to get people to notice me. Becoming a director does take time, but with hard work, patience, and perseverance, you definitely can do it and make a good living at it, especially in this day and age when we need so much video content. I boiled down how I did it in 5 steps. Let's take a look. So step number 1 is developing your own unique style. When I first started out, my work was very amateur. I could see what I wanted to make in my head, but I wasn't able to take that vision and turn it into something that looked like what I had seen in my head. I didn't have the skills or the know-how of how to use the equipment, and so that was very, very frustrating. No matter how hard I tried, it just always seemed to look so amateur. And I soon realized that all of the big time filmmakers, one thing that they all had in common was that they had a very unique and distinct style. You could oftentimes tell which movie was theirs just by a few shots. Now you might be asking, what is a personal style? So a personal style is essentially the mix of the types of stories you showcase, what kind of stories do you like to tell, and then what are the techniques you use to visualize those ideas. So in my case, my style of commercial work is action comedy. The ideas I explored had to do with injecting some sort of physical comedy or action sequence into everyday life. The angles, the casting, and the camera techniques that I used gave my work a very specific look. So let's take a look at one of my earliest commercials that I wrote and directed for the company Scotch-Brite, which is owned by 3M.
Get your own non-trap action with Scotch-Brite brand Stay Clean products.
So to develop your own personal style, you're going to need some sort of a filmmaker or mentor that you look up to learn from. So in my case, I grew up watching Jackie Chan movies and different Hong Kong films from the 80s. My dad is from Hong Kong, and my aunt would always send us videotapes for us to watch. So a lot of the times I'd spend the weekends watching all these crazy movies, and it just soaked into my psyche and became a huge influence on my work. So the things that I really took from these movies were the larger-than-life characters, the physical comedy and the action sequences, as well as the camera techniques like the whip pans and snap zooms. So having a personal style is really important because it allows you to stand out. You're offering something else beyond what other filmmakers have. You have something special and of value that the right client will want. So when you're developing your own style, ask yourself, what filmmakers do I like and what techniques do they use? And when you first start out, it's okay to emulate them and copy them, because even if you tried to copy them 100%, there's no way you'd be able to, because your own tastes, your own preferences, and your own circumstances are going to sneak in and make it your own thing. Step number 2 is create with a purpose. As you're developing your style, create films that are ideas that you really want to make. Make things that you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about them, you're more likely to really invest and make the film really, really good. And at this stage in your career, you're gonna wanna make the best film that you can possibly make. And as you're doing this, think about companies that you'd like to work for and how you can take one of their products and put it somewhere in your film, so when you go to upload it to social media, you can tag them in it and send it to them. And sometimes you will get a response. This has happened to me in the past when I've created content and tagged brands in it. They did respond and they actually reposted them. And just keep in mind that your videos that you're making, they don't have to be a commercial. They just have to be a really cool piece of film content. But be strategic about who you are targeting. A lot of people want to work for Nike or Apple or big companies like this, but I've found that when you're first starting out, it's much more advantageous to target smaller companies that may need some content in their feed. So for example, if you did want to target someone like Nike, look for a different athletic shoe brand that's a lot smaller in size, so when you make content for them, they have a higher chance of seeing it, and by doing this, you'll actually be building some trust with them, and if they like your work, they may just reach out to you to either use it or perhaps hire you to make content for them, because smaller companies, they don't have as big a budget as Nike, so a lot of the times they can use all the help that they can get, especially if it's good work. Step 3 is to build a website. Now I think there's a lot of value in creating a home base where you can showcase all of your best work. Now in the past, I would have said that you must need a website to showcase your work, but nowadays with Instagram has almost taken the place of websites and can be used as a profile site for your work, because most people are gonna go and check your Instagram anyway. So if you have a really nice laid out Instagram, that can act as a portfolio. That being said, I think if your goal is to become a high budget commercial director, there is still value in having a website for 3 reasons. Number 1, it adds legitimacy and credibility to your work and establishes your presence online as a director. Anybody who has taken the time to create and develop a nice portfolio website shows that you have some seriousness, and it helps people see you in a very professional light. Number 2, a website allows you to go in depth about the projects that you've worked on. You can include behind the scenes photos, or you can share explanations about how you create the content, which this is a great way for people to get to know who you are, and also establishes your expertise on the subject. Number 3, a website makes it much easier to find you and reach out to you for work. Companies who find you have a chance to look around your website and then can message you via the contact form. Sometimes Instagram messaging, direct messages, they're not really sure if you're gonna get the message or not, so having that set up makes it a lot easier for them. Step number 4, get in front of the right people and network. So you've got a cool body of work, and now what do you do with it? You've tried posting it online and your friends and families have all liked it, but it's not really helping you much because it isn't helping you make money. And this is a big problem that I had in the very beginning. Everybody I showed my work to really liked it, but I still wasn't getting any work. And so the problem was I wasn't showing it to the right people. So that being said, one of the most important things that you can do is to show the right people, and that you're connecting with people who can potentially bring you work opportunities. So then how did I go from making my own films to actually getting paid to do it? How did I bridge that gap? Well, I did it in sort of an interesting way. I sat down at the computer and I just Googled, how do I become a TV commercial director? And what came up was a link to a portfolio school. So for those of you who don't know what a portfolio school is, it's different from film school and it's different from art school. It's a school that's designed to help you build a portfolio of work if you want to get into advertising. And they mainly focus on copywriting and art direction. I didn't want to do either of those things, but I thought, you know what, let me use this as a way to get into the school. And the reason why I wanted to get into that school is because all of the teachers who work there work in actual advertising agencies during the day. So I figured if I could get my foot in the door, I could meet someone and maybe I could work my way into the system as a director instead of doing the art directing or copywriting. So I got into portfolio school, and every day I would bring my camera around with me because I was always filming things. And One day, one of my teachers asked me, well, how come you're always carrying that video camera around? And I told him that I was a filmmaker. He actually ran his own advertising agency and he was looking for somebody to do some video work. So he asked if I'd be interested in interning for him and his company as their video guy. And I said yes. So when I first started there, I was simply editing things that they had already shot. But as time went on, they started to ask me to shoot things and edit things. And this is where I got my first little taste of directing something. Small projects, but still a chance to direct. So from that advertising agency, I moved over to a post-production house where I started to intern as a videographer / director, and I was making $0 doing it. But at that point in my life, it was a good investment because at this particular post-production house, they had a full colorist team, post-sound design team, and editors. I had coworkers who were writers and actors. In addition to this, they also had a studio to shoot in with lights and gear. So whenever I wasn't working, after work, I'd go there and film my own things. I'd ask my coworkers to help me do some post-production sound, to do some coloring on it. I'd have my coworkers act in it. So at this time, I was very busy producing a lot of my own films and building out my portfolio with professional people who could make my work look way better than if I were to do it on my own. And since I worked at this company, they were able to see my progress over time and see me grow as a director in the short few years that I was there. And eventually they gave me an opportunity to direct a commercial for Scotch-Brite. And after that first commercial, I earned an opportunity to direct and write 6 more commercials, which gave me a huge boost to my portfolio and also gave me a legitimacy by working with a big name company like Scotch-Brite.
With Scotch-Brite disinfecting wipes, plates are optional, no rinse required.
So working with a company like Scotch-Brite gave me a lot of credibility and played a huge role in getting more paid commercial work. Step number 5 is to seek representation. So once you've built a portfolio with a couple of really solid pieces, seeking representation at a production company is the next step in getting high-paying commercial directing jobs. So a production company is a company that has a roster or a team of directors and a lot of relationships with different advertising agencies. So when an advertising agency wants to make a commercial, they'll reach out to different production companies to find a director who would be a good fit for that particular job. And this is where having developed your own personal style really plays a part, because if you have that distinct look and feel and your own signature style, this can really separate you from the crowd and help you to land that commercial job. So being part of a production company's roster is a great way to get in front of the right people for high-paying jobs, but your work does not stop there. A lot of directors think that once they're on a roster, they can kind of go easy mode, but that is not the case. You still need to be making your own work, and you still need to be networking to get your work out there so those opportunities keep coming up. Now I run my own production company, but I am still brought in from time to time to bid with other production companies for commercial work. And while I still do a lot of action comedy, my work has also evolved a bit, and I now do more story-driven dance videos. And now when I bid on new jobs, I'm charging a 5-figure day rate, which feels really good, especially considering when I started, I was making $0. Now everyone's timeline is going to be different for when they can achieve this type of a day rate, but in my opinion, if you were to cut out all the extraneous things that you do from day to day, like scrolling Instagram or playing video games, and you just focus on developing your style and creating as many films as you possibly could, I'd say within a year or two, you would have a really sick body of work that would get you very close to being able to charge this much per day. And because of platforms like Instagram, I believe it can take even less time to start seeing success and making money for your work, especially if you have a very distinct style and are really working at it. So that is the path that I took to make a 5-figure day rate as a commercial director. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw those in the comments below. Or if you'd like to see more of my work, you can go to my website at dream19.com. Keep creating, and we'll see you in the next one.